Is Jesus really teaching us to hate our family members? Or one or two of you may say, I have no problem with hating a family member. I hate my father so much because at our tender age, he left our family. Or there may be a child among us here this afternoon who will say, I have no problem with hating a brother because I have a younger brother who is so annoying that I hate him so much. Before we can get carried away, let's hit that pause button and see what is really happening. With his charismatic personality and his exceptional preaching capability, and as a great miracle worker, undoubtedly, Jesus draws a lot of following. Wherever he goes, people follow him. In today's gospel reading, while on his way to Jerusalem, he is being followed by a large crowd. Perhaps these people are thinking that Jesus' trip to Jerusalem is his victory march as a Messiah. And he wanted to be in hand when he claimed his throne to cheer and to share a reflected glory. But Jesus, as you heard, disillusions them. His journey to Jerusalem is demanding and very dangerous, calling not for spectators, not for fans, but for recruits, men with undivided loyalty and coldly calculated determination. In Cebuano, wa sa mangitag mga taong magsunod-sunod, kundi tinuod nga mga sumusunod. Is not looking for spectators, fair weather fans, but real disciples. To be following someone is easy. When everything is going great, everything is okay. But it's a completely different story when the going gets tough and becomes very, very rough. I think this is one of the implications in our gospel reading this Sunday. And Jesus himself, no doubt, senses this. That's why he faces the great crowd of fair weather fans and lays down to them a spiritual principle. Namely, the heart of the spiritual life is to love God first and above everyone and everything else. Say that again. The heart of the spiritual life is to love God first and above everyone and everything else. That's the order of priorities in the spiritual life. And it's not that easy. That's why in the gospel reading, Jesus uses a strong Semitic language to deliver his point. He says, if anyone comes to me without hating his mother and father, brothers or sisters, wife and children, or even one's own life, he cannot be my disciple. Hating a father and mother did not mean on the lips of Jesus on what it can base to us today. Remember again, he's using the Semitic language. And the Semites are only fond of extremes, light, darkness, truth, falsehood, tall, short, beautiful, ugly, love, hate, black, white. I mean, primary colors with no half shades of compromise in between. It's not that easy. That's why, again, he faces this crowd and tells them plainly that his trip to Jerusalem is not a spectacle that you should witness as spectators, but I'm going there for a very important mission, and I'm looking for people who could be my true disciples. So to hate father and mother for the disciples of Jesus would mean giving their family members a second place in their affection. Ties of friendship or ties of kinship must not interfere with their absolute commitment to the Lord and His kingdom. So let's be clear, brothers and sisters, in this gospel, Jesus is not advocating aggressive, active anger of our dear ones in the family. No, what he's saying here is we hate them in the measure that they become like gods to us, competing with God, for precisely in that measure that they become dangerous spiritually. Here's an example. Many of you are familiar with the life of Saint Francis of Assisi. Let's just go direct to the point. At one point in his life, Saint Francis felt that he's being called by God for a religious life. After a period of reflection, serious dedication to the question, he made a decision. He will commit himself to the call of the Lord. And that decision was against the will of his father. His father, a wealthy merchant, would like Francis to follow his lead, to be a merchant like himself. But Francis decided to be firm in his decision to follow God's call. And his father was enraged. And you know the rest of the story. He gave back all his possessions to his father, and he even stripped himself and walked out of town naked. In that story, my friends, we have a saint who followed the will of God, hating his father because his father became too central, even competing with his decision about God. And Saint Francis and the other testimonies of the other saints tell us that our life become meaningful, important, rich, and joyful if we embrace the basic principle of the spiritual life: to love God first and above everyone and everything else. May we embrace that spiritual principle so that each of our lives will also become meaningful, rich, and joyful. Please stand.